east of the mountains, as we knew would be the case, right? And that was because the cold front came in, brought the low-level moisture, and that is what fired up.
Doctor, attorney, and now the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos. Ramos Law. What makes us different makes us better.
Good morning, crew from Upland, Indiana. That's how the locals say it. If you just see it on a map, or if you haven't been here, you probably call it Upland, but this is the home of Taylor University. I'm repping the gear today. I am Matt Meister. This is Peaks to Plains weather. It's foggy up here. This part of the country has received very, very heavy rain over the last couple of weeks, and driving around, you can see some of the impacts from that, with just standing water in the fields up against houses in some cases, and especially just south of Upland in the Muncie area, there's been some real significant flooding. We've had rain of our own. We had some storms yesterday. If you got under one of them, some heavy rain for sure, and there was some impacts from that. So let's do a quick recap of yesterday. Thanks for being here with me this morning on Peaks to Plains weather. I sure do appreciate that. And our high temps yesterday, you know, they were cooler because we had that cold front that came in, brought in low-level moisture. That's what fired up the storm. So there were no 100s across the region yesterday. Temperatures start to come up here for the end of the week. Like I said, there were some pretty big storms. Chris McBroom lives on the south end of Black Forest. He took this picture of a storm that was rolling out across eastern parts of the Palmer Divide, moving southward out of Elbert and Lincoln County late yesterday. A pretty impressive storm. My daughter Whitney also sent me a picture of that. So I know it was visible from Colorado Springs. The radar in southern Colorado is undergoing some maintenance right now. So some of the radar estimated rain locally is using the radar from Albuquerque, from Goodland, Kansas, from Denver. So it's not as good as when we're using our local radar, but there were areas that had more than an inch of rain for sure yesterday. And we had some severe weather. You can see some of those reports across parts of Lincoln County, just to the east of El Paso County. In Cooch, we had some 1-inch diameter hail, and that was in the evening. We also had some large hail with some of those storms that were rolling out across far eastern Colorado on Interstate 70, where the hail was a little bit bigger. We had some strong wind gusts as well. Pueblo, we had a good storm yesterday. There was gusty wind, there was heavy rain, there was some hail with that. That was in the late afternoon and around dinner. And man, in the Aspen Acres fire, yesterday, San Isabel, we had some issues on Highway 3, or County Road 378, I should say. Thankfully, not much in the way of homes were significantly impacted by that, but the road was certainly impacted, and we have dealt with all kinds of stuff over the last week, as you know. We could use a little bit of a break, but we do have more storms in the forecast, and we need to stay vigilant. I think what'll be interesting is when we get storms that produce maybe a ½ inch of rain or less. Since we've had some significant movement in the burn, it'll be interesting to see if we get as much debris, mud, and ash movement. I mean, some basins haven't been impacted as much as others. So, you know, like I said, if you live in this area, stay vigilant. And then yesterday we did get a funnel cloud in the Wet Mountain Valley. And when I initially saw this report, I was like, oh, it was probably a cold air funnel, which isn't like a legit funnel cloud in terms of maybe the potential to produce a tornado. But then I saw this picture from Mike Chesser, and you can see at the top of that funnel what looks like a little wall cloud there. So, yeah, that was a little bit interesting to see for sure. And, you know, you always have to be vigilant, even when you're talking, you know, just sort of a day where it doesn't look like tornado potential. You always have to keep your eye kind of focused on what is happening. Thanks for joining me this morning. Isn't the fog crazy? Isn't it amazing how green it is in the Midwest? I tell you what, the bugs are bigger here. There's a lot more bugs. I can hear the bugs. Can you hear the bugs? The squirrels are a little bit bigger here. I've seen some raccoons cruising around. The deer are not as big in the Midwest, though, as the muleys that we get in Colorado. That's for sure. We certainly, you know, our mule deer tend to have bigger bodies than the whitetails that you get across most of the United States. Let's talk about the extended forecast here, and we'll start with the next couple of days because we do have a little bit of a change on the way, and it's mainly in terms of the low-level moisture. That's a big difference here over the next couple of days, and our forecast is going to be really kind of driven by the monsoon for the most part as we move toward the weekend. So let's jump into that now, and we'll focus on you know, what you might get here the next couple of afternoons. Obviously, the storms we had yesterday were strong in some cases because they had the low-level moisture to work with. That changes a little bit today. The effects of the front kind of move off to the east here, and so our temperatures warm back up, and with that warming, we will get warmer temps here to kind of end the week. So, as I show you what is going to drive our sort of large-scale weather, it's the high over the southwestern U.S. It has moved back toward the Four Corners. It'll generally be to our south for Thursday, Friday into next week. With time, it kind of scoots to the southeast just a little bit. But because it's the dominant weather feature, on the west side of it, we set the monsoon plume up again. And you can see there's some moisture down across Arizona this morning. We're rotating that up around the high, and we'll have the best chance of storms the next couple days over the mountains, and so our temperatures there don't change too much. Over the plains, we warm back up today. We'll be back in the 90s for Colorado Springs. A couple spots will flirt with, if not get to 100 over the far eastern plains. And we've still got low-level moisture this morning, but watch what happens as we hit the heating of the day today. Our dew points really drop off. And so when rain leaves the cloud bases, east of the Rockies, it has farther to fall than areas even over the mountain valleys and certainly up on the hillsides and the peaks. So that's where our best chance of bursts of moderate rain, and if somebody's going to get heavy rain today, that's where it will be. Now, skycast into the afternoon shows some storms developing, and it does bring a couple across lower elevations here late in the day into the evening. Pueblo, right? Aspen Acres fire will keep a close eye on you today. I don't think the threat for heavy rain is as significant as yesterday, but again, we've got to stay diligent. Canyon, basically the farther southwest you go today, the better chance of a storm as we move through the afternoon and evening. And so if we're going to get some heavy rain today, it'll certainly be, up on the hillsides, and then the valleys, the chance is not as significant, but we'll watch it. Now we move into Friday, and we get our hottest day of the extended forecast here. And we get another day of some thunderstorms because we're rotating the mid-level moisture around that high. It's not as thick as it gets early next week, but it's enough that we have to stay diligent, and we will see some storms form again. And you see that happening in the afternoon. I think there's a little bit better chance tomorrow, particularly in the Pikes Peak region, of catching a gusty storm in the afternoon or evening. And hey, it's Friday night, right? High school football underway, all of the high school activities. I don't want to forget about flag football. I don't want to forget about soccer. I don't want to forget about softball that's happening. Younger kids have lots of activities as well. If your kids are out of the house, you don't have kids, I know it's Friday night, right? You might want to be on a bike ride or a hike or a run or something like that, have dinner on the deck. So just be aware that there's a chance of a storm better tomorrow in and around Colorado Springs, El Paso, Teller County, the Palmer Divide than we get out there today. But because we're still lacking some low-level moisture, those storms are going to be more likely to produce some gusty wind, some lightning, maybe some brief rain compared to the storms farther west over the mountains where there's just not as much atmosphere for those storms to fall through. So that's kind of the situation here as we head into the weekend. But then we have some changes on the way as we move into next week, and we'll talk about that when we come back. You're watching Mornings with Meister. You are on Peaks to Plains Weather, our weather together. I'll be right back.
At Phil Long Ford Motor City, we've been around for 80 years. That's like 560 in dog years. Basically, we're the top dogs of Colorado. And thanks to our deals, selection, and service, we've earned some pretty loyal customers. And our GM Mark, he's the most loyal guy I know. Even after I chewed up his shoe, it was delicious.
Great trucks, amazing deals, and belly rubs for dogs. Come see why Colorado drives Phil Long Ford Motor City. Hey guys, where's my shoe?
I love that with the dogs, don't you? It's, when you travel, it's so interesting to go to places that have different weather than what you experience at home. This is really, really typical here in the Midwest. And I know some of us over the eastern plains, we get fog more often, our easternmost counties, than we do up against the Front Range. But especially being a meteorologist and a weather geek, right? I find that I like when I get to go around the country and experience some different weather. So it's been pretty fun for me to be here. Yesterday there were some heavy storms. I drove to Muncie to get some stuff for my son out of the storage unit that he had some of his stuff in over the summer while he was moving in with the guys into the townhouse, and it was cool to drive through Midwest storms. It's a little bit different than what we get up against the Rockies. All right, let's jump into our forecast here for the weekend. And I'm gonna give you the upper level pattern just because I can't do as much stuff as efficiently as when I'm at home. But you see over the western US, see that bump in the black lines that goes all the way up into Idaho and Montana? That's the ridge that the high pressure that's driving our weather is going to form. And so after temperatures come up today into Friday, see that low wave over the central part of the US? That's the jet stream there. Well, that kind of dives southeast into the start of the weekend, and it'll bring a cold front into eastern Colorado. That increases the low-level moisture for Saturday, and that'll give us a better chance of storms east of the mountains. And we'll keep an eye out for some real heavy rain again, and maybe some severe weather. I'll work on that when I get to the airport a little bit later on today. But the main pattern into next week is moisture rotating around that high each day. And we'll have some days where the storms, we get the cold pools in the afternoon that descend down the Rockies. That can fire up new storms. And it's starting to look like there'll be enough moisture that at least up against the hills and over the plains west of Highway 71, we'll have a chance of some daily storms in addition to the mountain areas as we move into the early part of next week. And then maybe that breaks up a little bit late in the week because we may get a dry line that forms out across eastern Colorado. So the mountains will certainly get some storms here as we move through the weekend into next week. Not that you'll get them every day, but you know, some of them will put down some heavy rain. That's good news. We still need water over the mountains. I think we're a little bit drier to, you know, the next couple days for sure compared to yesterday in terms of the likelihood of thunderstorms putting down heavy rain east of the mountains. Saturday behind the front, we may end up with most of the storms kind of on the higher terrain around town. So maybe a little bit better chances west and north of downtown. I'll keep an eye on that and do a deep dive when I get to the airport later today, because I'm going to have a 3 or 4 hour chunk where I can do some work. So I'll watch that for you. But Pueblo, and again, like I said, areas west of Highway 71, as we get into early next week, a better chance of storms than maybe we get toward next weekend and late in the week. We'll have to watch that. And I do think early next week, the farther east you go, not that the chance of storms will be zero, but they just won't be as good as what we'll have kind of early in the week. Here is how it's looking. So crew, that's what our forecast looks like. Thanks to Rachel for working yesterday with all of that severe weather. She did a great job. I appreciate that. So good to have her on the team. Mary called yesterday, wasn't able to get the phone call, but we're gonna, you know, talk about what kind of the next month or so looks like for her. I know she and Maddie are doing great, and we're so happy that she is getting time away. Peaks to Plains weather is all about family and being able to serve you while life is happening for all of us. And so, you know, we are so grateful that she has been able to get time away, like I said. Crew, that's it for me this morning. I hope you have a fantastic day. If there are storms around that cause some issues, I'll be with you here later on today. Peaks to Plains weather is always watching out for you 24 hours a day. Make sure you download the Peaks to Plains weather app, because those short-term things that happen will give you a digital shoulder tap. We'll let you know about them and do live coverage as necessary, because Peaks to Plains weather is our weather together.